Hello and welcome to this special show on Indo-US relations. Recently, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in the United States, President Donald Trump had noted that Indo-US ties had never been better. When Donald Trump unveiled his South Asia strategy, he specifically singled out India as a solution provider in the region and its crucial role in the country of Afghanistan. Now, when Rex Tillerson was in India about 2 days ago, he also noted that India has a very crucial role to play and the United States will continuously fully back India's stand in demanding that Pakistan eliminate terror havens on their soil. Today, joining us is a very special man, Shalabh Kumar, somebody who's the founder of the Republican Hindu Coalition. He's someone who has been attached with Donald Trump's campaign. He was one of the topmost Indo-American donors to the Donald Trump campaign. He understands a thing or two about Donald Trump, about the way the man works and how he has changed from the politician Trump to the President Donald Trump. Also joining us is a member of Shalabh Kumar's family and his daughter, Manasvi, somebody who's been a former Miss India, somebody who is the ambassador of the Republican Hindu Coalition. Thank you very much, both of you, for being with us on this broadcast.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Greetings to your audience.
Manasvi, I'll start with you. You had the opportunity to celebrate the first Diwali with Donald Trump. How did that go? Would you like to tell us about that?
Sure. It was very, very exciting. I will take you through how this all came about, actually. So, at this time of the year, White House is extremely busy. So the scheduling office, was going back and forth as to if this can happen, when this can happen. And there was a time when, they thought that the first lady would, do the ceremony. Melania would do the ceremony because the president wasn't available. And, they canceled the Eid celebrations because they were so tied up. So, 1 year back, we had a rally in New Jersey on 15th October. And there, then candidate Trump, he had proclaimed saying that, we love India, we love Hindus. And, if I'm elected, the Hindus will have a best friend in the White House. So I think he kept his promise. He wanted to have this celebration. So 2 days before Diwali, which is 17th Tuesday, they fixed a time. And President took out, initially he was supposed to be there only half an hour. But he eventually ended up spending almost about an hour or two with us. So, it was quite a roller coaster ride.
And I believe, Manasvi, that after that, right, and after that lamp lighting ceremony, there was also a one-on-one meeting. Mr. Shalabh Kumar, would you like to tell us what was the President's broader message for India on Diwali when you were there at the White House along with the Indian delegation, the Indo-American delegation? What was his broad message to India?
In one line, India is a strategic partner for US. And we are proud of the fact that we made some contribution towards that movement from the old policy of US, where they will be not so tough with Pakistan or China, and will be somewhat ambivalent on India. So with the advent of President Trump on the scene, and you mentioned actually from a politician to president, no, from a businessman to president.
To president.
And when we endorsed him last year, in the 2016 campaign, when Republican Hindu Coalition endorsed candidate Trump, we had asked him about his future policies towards India. And we were quite satisfied with his policies towards not only India, Indian Americans, Hindu Americans, and he has kept every single one of his promises. So we are not surprised at all. There's a lot more to come. He has already moved the needle substantially, as we all know. He has Secretary Tillerson on 18th, I believe. He also declared that in the entire Indo-Pacific region, India and U.S. need to be strategic partners, combating Chinese growing influence as well.
That's what his message for his
You know,
recent trip
this
as
is
well.
this is indeed a positive sign, Mr. Shalabh Kumar. You know, the question that I had in mind, because you're somebody who's tracked Donald Trump very closely, as you said, from businessman to president. His campaign was very, very strong. He was very vociferously against immigration, against breaking of laws in the United States, and he wanted the US economy to do well and jobs to return to America. So there has been this looming threat and panic over H-1B visas, even though the United States has repeatedly been saying there is absolutely nothing that has changed right now. Yes, the policy is under review, but nothing has changed as far as H-1B workers are concerned. India remains the biggest beneficiary. But recently, we saw tightening of H-1B rules as well. So how much of a worry is this really for the Indian IT sector and Indian workers who would like to go abroad and work in the United States at some point in time?
Couple of points I'll make there. First, there is some abuse, not a whole lot, but some amount of abuse in the H-1B visa program that needs to be controlled and stopped. Now, to the bigger point, with the tax reform passing, close to passing in the United States, even though the forecast is 2.5% to 3% GDP growth, I am very confident that that number is going to become 4%. When American economy, an $18 trillion economy, grows by 4% a year, just imagine how many jobs it creates all over all different sectors, including the IT sector. So nobody needs to worry about anything with respect to immigration and visas and H-1Bs and so forth, because the demand for IT services is going to be so high. Mm-hmm. that just and he is all for legal immigration. All he has put in is a curb on illegal immigration, which we are also, RSC, Republican Hindu Coalition, our community is very much for stopping illegal, undocumented immigration. And that, by the way, without even having the wall, we are very much for the wall. It has dropped to 1/3 just because we have a tough president. So people have stopped coming in. And, in the immigration side, a bigger reform needs to take place, which I'm sure is going to happen. And that is what concerns the Indian.
Absolutely. The policy, the H-1B policy is under review. And like you're saying, there could be more safeguards in the days to come to protect American workers and make sure whatever immigration takes place through legal channels as per laws of the United States. Manasvi, coming to you, because you were there for the Diwali festivities. You met Donald Trump, the entire Trump family, on several occasions in the past. How do you think they view the Indo-American community and India as an ally?
Oh, I think President loves the Hindu and the Indian American community. I think when he said that we will have a best friend in the White House, he wasn't lying. He stood by it. And just this Diwali celebration is proof enough. No matter how busy he was, he took out that time. And so it was very interesting. The whole the Diya lighting ceremony, and the message that he gave out. In the message, he said how much he loves Prime Minister and how much he values Hindus. And there was Nikki Haley and Ivanka was there. And during the lamp lighting, actually, Pops gave a speech about the significance of Diwali. And I don't know if you remember, after the election, after he won, Pops had given an interview to one of the channels when he said President's going to usher in Ram Rajya. And that was actually picked up by a couple of articles. And, he said that again there. And, the whole White House, all the officials, General Kelly, they all burst into, an applause when he said all that. So he definitely loves India. He definitely appreciates a good partnership with India. Tillerson's recent trip, the message that he sent out in it with the Indo-Pacific deal and the importance of India, I think it's statement in itself. So that day was very interesting.
Yeah,
This is the inside story. So the celebration was over in about 30-45 minutes. And
absolutely.
he had a very important day that day. He had to make these calls, and there was another speech that he had to give in the afternoon. But he was like, once
So
he met us, and he had
was
met
this
us after.
celebration bigger than previous ones?
Oh, yes.
Because I think the White House has been celebrating Diwali since 2009. Was the celebration bigger than that?
There's always a difference between doing something just for optics and doing something when you really mean it. So I think the previous celebrations were more optics, more to show the world that, oh, this is what the White House is doing. But here, President really meant it. So after this is what I was saying. After the celebration was over, he actually rearranged his schedule, and he was like, "Oh no, you guys wait. I want to, talk to you." So they actually arranged his whole schedule for the day so that we could come in half an hour extra, the Kumar family and president. We could sit with him. And then we were discussing about all sorts of topics, like Pops was discussing policy, and me and my brother Vikram, we were discussing about the younger things, what we think about the administration, what we think about, the people. And President's very
Manasvi,
casual
that
with
brings
us.
me to my next question, because I believe, and this is what I found from various reports, that after the Diwali celebrations got over, after the photo session was over, Mr. Kumar had a one-on-one meeting with President Trump. Mr. Kumar, is that right?
Oh, everything under the sun.
I know. The topics range from Pakistan, China, India, to acting, to Hollywood, to Bollywood, to like signing books, like signing personalized messages on books. So it was everything under the sun. What Vikram's doing with AVG, because we at AVG, we manufacture electronics still out of America, which not many. I think hardly happens. So the thing is, we were talking about everything under the sun. My career, my interest in acting, and he actually signed like personalized messages for me, Vikram. So to Vikram he wrote, "Thank you, Vikram. Thank you for great job for Make America Great Again." On my books he signed, "Thank you for your help." And for another, our campaign book, which is Apki Baar Trump Sarkar, we have this beautiful campaign book. We presented it to him, and on our copy he said, "Manasvi and Pops, you're a great family." So like there was everything under the sun. It was politics, and I think General Kelly is amazing. So the thing is, when President was like, "Oh wait, I want to spend more time," I thought General Kelly is going to be like, "No, President, we have so much to do." But he was quite cool with it, and it was I really appreciate him. He's such a disciplinarian, but he was, he's firm.
That's good to hear that he took out so much of time for the Indian American community there. Coming to Indo-US ties under Donald Trump, yes, we've gotten off to a very positive start, Mr. Kumar, but some of the bottlenecks around the economy, this is something that the US and successive governments in the US have been concerned about trade relations, about the kind of barriers, problems US companies face. There have been several committees that have been set up to look into this. A lot of delegation level talks have happened at topmost levels. So do you think this is something that Donald Trump would want from India? If we want this relationship to go to the next level, we have to remove those bottlenecks for US companies.
I couldn't agree with you more. Most definitely. There is some old-time thinking in the Indian government, Indian administration, bureaucracy, more than anything else. And some of the reforms have to take place in India as well to make it into a first world country. And the faster these reforms take place, and the one man to do that is Prime Minister Modi. And if it cannot happen under Modi's leadership, I don't know when it would ever happen. So yeah, some reforms have to take place. One of the items, which is my hot subject, India has to get rid of corruption and bureaucracy. That's one of the two items which are.
I'll just point out Mr. Kumar, Manasvi, I'll point out and bring to your notice one statement from the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Bob Kocher, who said that he was frustrated by slow pace of economic reforms in India and American companies continue to face barriers in the Indian market. Do you think for the new ambassador, Kenneth Juster, this is going to be the priority? When he gets to India, this is something that he would be or he would like to work on behalf of the US government?
I'm sure he would like to work on that, and it's just not the ambassador, trade rep of the U.S. and Wilbur Ross, who is the Commerce Secretary. He is also very close to India. Stephen Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary. He was the Hindu campaign manager last year. So people at the very top of U.S. administration are very vested in India, and they're going to prod India to make the reforms. As you know, Senator Corker is not coming back. Most likely it's going to be Senator Risch, James Risch, who is the second in command, who will be the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee in the Senate, and he is a member of the board of advisors of Republican Hindu Coalition. He is even more pro India than currently. So, it all is in the positive direction.
Okay. Mr. Shalabh Kumar, Manasvi, we're going to take a short break here. We're going to take a short break, but when we return, we'll talk about our strategic relations, our defense partnership, our relationship with Pakistan, Afghanistan, and how we can make Pakistan more accountable when it comes to fighting terror groups on its soil. All right, welcome back. Joining us on this broadcast is Shalabh Kumar, somebody who's the founder of the Republican Hindu Coalition. Also with us is a member of the Shalabh Kumar family, his daughter, Manasvi, somebody who's been a former Miss India, and she's the ambassador of the Republican Hindu Coalition. Very recently, they were at the White House for Diwali celebrations, and they have described that in detail. Mr. Shalabh Kumar, talking about the entire region, the Afghanistan-Pakistan region, Donald Trump, when he was unveiling his South Asia strategy, he had a special mention for India. He acknowledged India's good role in Afghanistan in bringing peace with all those development projects, but he also wanted India to do more when it comes to sending boots to the ground or playing a larger military role in Afghanistan. So how much do you think Donald Trump is going to back India's demand for putting pressure on Pakistan? Because previous administrations have also understood that there is a problem, but there is only a certain distance that they go till. How will things be different this time around under Donald Trump?
In President Trump, nation of India, government of India really have a very, let's say, well-wishing and a true friend. And it depends on how they negotiate, how they interact, what kind of, let's say, a close relationship, not just at the top between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump, but underneath at all levels they can establish. There's no question U.S. will really benefit from and would like to have Indian troops in Afghanistan and help in every respect there. And India would like to have U.S. take a very firm position on Pakistan, which it is willing to do, but it really just needs to be talked about, negotiated, and all that, and which I'm quite sure will happen. It may take some time, but it will happen.
Can we really expect the US government now to go after groups like the Lashkar-e-Toiba, the Jaish-e-Mohammed, groups which are actually targeted against India, which are very active in Jammu and Kashmir?
Well, they have already declared them as terrorist organizations. So, U.S. is under President Trump, has got a very clear policy towards Lashkar and such groups. So, I forget the name. There was one terrorist in Pakistan, which was for the longest time, I think, is uh, Saeed, Hafiz Saeed, or somebody like that, who was being sought for.
Yeah, Hafiz Saeed, chief of the Lashkar-e-Toiba.
Right, right. He was being asked by Indian government that U.S. declare him as a terrorist, um, and so U.S. did it. So it's again, the basics are all there. It's a question of how well it is implemented. Uh, you probably may remember or may not remember, Nirmala Sitaraman was my guest. Actually, she stayed at our home for a week in 2012. 2012, when she was introduced to the U.S. Congress, when she came to help us push for legislation to cut off foreign aid to Pakistan after bin Laden was found in Pakistan. So she's got some good relationship with the U.S. Congress, and we are happy that she is the defense minister of India currently. And so, it's what I would say suggest is that a firmer relationship has to be generated and cultivated between the two sides at a level below the chiefs of state.
Yeah. And, Manasvi, the next important engagement between India and the United States would be Ivanka Trump's visit. Ivanka is coming towards the end of November for the Global Entrepreneurial Summit in Hyderabad. What do you think she has in mind, and what is the kind of message she will be carrying from the U.S. administration?
I think she's doing a great job, in the administration, being an advisor to the president. And she's doing so much for women, children, small business. I follow her, and I can say we acknowledge each other, and we know each other well by now. So actually, at the Diwali celebration, she was the first person that I interacted with, because the president was, 10 minutes late. So when we went into the Oval Office, she was the first person that I spoke to, and we caught up. And this was actually the first question that she asked me. She's like, "Are you going to be there?" And unfortunately, we might not be there because we have some engagements here. But she's very excited about it. And Pops, I think, will you be there? Maybe.
Not 100% sure yet.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So she's very excited about it, and she's hoping to achieve a lot with this summit.
Absolutely. And one question that comes to my mind, because the U.S. president right now is engaged with a lot of problems. There are foreign policy issues that he is dealing with. There are foreign policy issues with Russia. You've got issues with China. You've got issues with North Korea. You've got issues with Iran and Cuba. So, in such a complex global situation, where does India stand for Donald Trump?
You see, it's like President Reagan. If you remember that time frame, there were all these problems were there, and people had started to prepare even for a nuclear war. But Soviet Union got dismantled, got destroyed without firing a bullet, just because President Reagan had a fundamental belief, a very fundamental belief in a strong America, and that America is right, Soviet Union is evil, and he continued on that policy. So even though the things might sound very complex, but when we are with the president, and as you can see him on public stage, he is very confident. We are very confident. All these problems are going to get resolved fairly well, and America is back in the lead from front, not from behind. And when we have a strong America economy growing at 3 to 4% a year, and in partnership with India, the world's largest democracy, the two have a good strategic relationship, everything else gets solved fairly easily. It's not that big of a deal. As you hear President Trump say all the time, yes, it will get solved. Believe me, it will get solved. It will happen. So I'll say the same thing. We are quite confident
Also,
that things are
as
on the
far as
right track.
India's foreign policy challenges are concerned, how much do you think the new US government will help India? For example, if there is another issue or a Doklam-like standoff with China in future, how much of help can we expect from the United States government?
Well, Secretary Tillerson has already made his stance, U.S. government stance, very clear for the Indo-Pacific region that India has to be a counterbalance to growing Chinese influence. So you could read right in between the lines right there that that is the situation, and there is no question that China wants to be a regional hegemon, and if they can, they're moving towards wanting to become a world hegemon. And so it's in the best interest of United States and India to curtail that endeavor.
A lot of Chinese media had covered our Diwali
And,
celebration. So it was like it was the main story, and a lot of Chinese.
Two quick questions now. We're running out of time, but one quick question to Manasvi and one to Mr. Shalabh Kumar. Manasvi, if India wants to win over Donald Trump, his visit to India is yet to be confirmed. He will be making a visit to India soon. What does India need to do?
I think the president already loves India enough. So I think we're
put on a huge, big Bollywood celebration. Just kidding. He loves Bollywood. He actually
put on
calls
a big
my daughter
Bollywood celebration.
he calls her Bollywood. So
no, I think we're on the right track. We're on a good partnership already.
And I will also like to let your viewers know something else, which is maybe a news or maybe a big news. Manasvi is interested in taking up law and as well as joining the American political scene, and that was discussed with President Trump, and he was quite excited about it.
Oh, good to hear that, Mr. Shalabh Kumar. And my one last question is about the personal equation of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump. How would you rate that, and how crucial is that for this partnership?
I think that relationship has gotten started on the right foot, but I think it needs to grow. And it's not just at the top level. It needs to grow, like I've been saying throughout this interview, at the lower levels as well. So, they have to be like a General Kelly to a counterpart, a relationship. There has to be a relationship with the leaders of the Congress, in the Foreign Relations Committee, in the House Foreign Relations Committee, in the Senate, and then the executive side as well. So the relationship needs to get a lot deeper at let's say, I would say at least top 10 officials or elected officials or non-elected officials. That needs to happen. I have always said that U.S. and India should have a relationship like U.S. and UK. It's time to have that relationship, and that could happen provided everybody walks the line.
All right. Mr. Shalabh Kumar, Manasvi, thanks very much for joining us on this broadcast. It was great to have you, and thanks very much for sharing your perspective on where Indo-US relations are going under Donald Trump. We've gotten off to a great start, but a lot of work definitely needs to be done.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.